So, it's always a treat when we get the opportunity to talk about this guy. We've made a bunch of videos over the past few years, even in the past few days, about Vancouver Canucks forward Vitali Kravtsov, and the fact that the Vancouver Canucks actually exercised their right to sign this player to an NHL contract for 2025-2026. Now, if you've been following a bunch of the videos that we've made about this dude over the past few years, from his time in New York and how weird that was, to how Gerard Gallant was going out there and coaching this guy 2-3 years ago, to the inevitable time that Vitali was traded to the Vancouver Canucks, you will note that this guy had a very interesting development as a prospect. And 2 years ago, we even said that this guy was a failed experiment. He ended up leaving the Vancouver Canucks to go to the KHL, which I honestly do think warrants the entire experiment as being labeled as a failure. Like, okay, you brought a guy in, you wanted him to play, he didn't play well, and then he left. Right? Like, that doesn't really define itself as successful in my mind. But even though that didn't work out the first time when Vitali Kravtsov was traded to Vancouver and when he had 2 points in 16 games in 22-23, now the guy's back in Van. He re-signed after posting up 58 points in 66 games played with Traktor Chelyabinsk in the KHL. We can go over the entire song and dance of why this guy was ever drafted 9th overall by the Rangers, but we've talked about that all throughout the past few days, so you can just check any of the other videos to see why that went down. But in this video, we are diving into Vitali Kravtsov and this 25-year-old's profile as courtesy of Cam Robinson, because on Sakaris and Price, earlier in the week, you had Elite Prospects Cam Robinson going out there and talking about a bunch of Vancouver Canucks stuff. This clip from S&P's Twitter account is 51 seconds long and it talks about Elias Pettersson, but as we've been talking about all week here, Canucks News Summaries gave us the scoop and the full summary, you can say, as to what it is Cam spoke about on the program. There's a bunch of stuff here, from the Rangers and Miller to Pettersson to Rossi and McTavish. We've talked about a bunch of this stuff already, but of course, big shout out over to Canucks News Summaries for always giving us a easy to read, easy to follow, digestible scoop that we can respond to. Because Vitali Kravtsov was indeed discussed by Cam on the show, and this is exactly where we're going to dive into what this guy could actually be. Right underneath the Casey Mittelstadt and Pavel Zacha Boston Bruins trade talk, that in which we actually did make a video about already, you have what Cam says about Vitali Kravtsov, how the Vancouver Canucks signing him is a low-risk move. Cam said he talked to some people that had scouted Vitali in the KHL, and he has been very good there. Vitali Kravtsov had a work rate issue in the past, which frustrated coaches, which I guess you could say was part of the reason why Gerard Gallant really wasn't good to this guy. Also, you could probably say that's why Vitali Kravtsov really didn't work out in the Vancouver Canucks 22-23 system, which featured, who was the coach there? Was it Boudreau? I need to fact check this before we continue with this video here. Oh, Bo Horvat was the captain. Yeah, it was Boudreau and Tocchet. There you go. So, a little bit of Tocchet elegance there with Vitali Kravtsov. It didn't really work out all too well. But he has found another level in the KHL. He needs to translate that to the NHL, though. Cam says in this write-up that it's either going to be Vitali Kravtsov or Lekaramaki who has a better chance at making the team. Cam then compares Vitali Kravtsov to Valeri Nichushkin, going back to the KHL, figuring things out, and then being successful in the NHL. He has an understanding of North American expectations, and he is still a relatively young player. Vitali can be a complementary player in the top 9, but he needs to play with tenacity and not be a defensive liability. This guy could score 20 goals and be a 45 to 50 point player, but he needs to fill in the rest of the gaps in his game. And this right here is honestly like the first piece of Kravtsov optimism that I think we've seen out of really anybody on the social media landscape of Canucks Twitter or podcasting. I mean, we made the video when the guy re-signed with Vancouver, like, okay, we called it a puzzling signing over here, and I said in that commentary that, yeah, okay, Vitali Kravtsov had a great KHL season, 58 points, 66 games, 27 goals, that's amazing, and he was one of the top point producers, but look at all the other guys who were top point producers. Josh Leivo, 49 goals. He broke the KHL record for goals in a season. Was Leivo ever an amazing NHL player? I think he was a fan favorite at times, especially in Vancouver and Toronto, but he wasn't, like, amazing. Sheldon Rempel was not really amazing in the NHL. Guys that Kravtsov was outscoring. Barabanov was not amazing in the NHL. Alexander Chmelevski, he has some talent, I guess. Jordan Wheel, Maxime Comtois, Neil Yakupov, these guys weren't amazing. So the point is, just because you produce a lot in the KHL doesn't necessarily mean that's going to translate. Not everybody can be Andrei Kuzmenko after all. But for Cam Robinson to go out there and say that Vitali Kravtsov may have a similar sort of path as Valeri Nichushkin, I'm all of a sudden salivating now, licking my lips and licking my chops, hoping to see what Kravtsov can do, because Valeri Nichushkin was also a top pick. He was 10th overall by the Dallas Stars in 2013, but after 2015-16, he ended up leaving Dallas, going over to CSKA Moscow, didn't really produce too many points, admittedly, especially compared to Kravtsov, but then when he returned to the NHL, he had 10 points in 57 games for Dallas, not great, got sent over to Colorado, and then became a consistent 20-goal guy. The reason this guy hasn't produced more is because his games played has been limited. Look at 23-24, the guy had 53 points in 54 games, 28 goals on the season too. He had 10 points in 8 games in that playoff run, in 21-22 he had 15 points in 20 games in the playoffs. Put all the personal baggage that Valeri Nichushkin brings aside, and you see the profile of a guy who Dallas Stars fans really did not believe in. He was brought over to Dallas immediately after the 2013 draft, had a pretty decent rookie season at 18 years old, but never was able to take that next step. He went over to Russia, he came back, and after a few years, he became a near point per game 30-goal caliber stud. If this guy just played 82 games in any of these seasons, he probably would have had a 30-goal season by now. I'm not saying Vitali Kravtsov is guaranteeing to doing that, but he is producing pretty well in the KHL, and if Cam's assessment here is correct, that it's going to be either Kravtsov or Lekaramaki in that spot, I mean, that could be a pretty good level of competition for Lekaramaki. If Vitali Kravtsov comes to Vancouver and finally breaks out his NHL scoring potential, if he gets 45 points, if he gets 20 goals, alongside of Evander Kane hopefully getting 20 goals, and Jake DeBrusk hopefully getting 25 goals, and Besser hopefully getting 30 goals, and Pettersson hopefully getting 30 goals, you can tell there's optimism in the way Vancouver has structured their team. And I'm starting to sit here and wonder, are they actually right? So with that in mind, let me know your thoughts on Vitali Kravtsov and where he can be this upcoming season. The big question in the title and the thumbnail of this video, is Vitali Kravtsov actually good? Is this guy going to be the next Valeri Nichushkin? That's going to be a really tall task. I don't think Kravtsov is going to be a point-per-game guy, over-point-per-game guy in the playoffs anytime soon. But if he gets even 15 goals, I think Canucks fans will be extremely happy with that. He signed a 1-year contract for a reason. He really wants to prove himself, and this is going to be the season to do it. Is this going to be Andrei Kuzmenko, Valeri Nichushkin 2.0, or is Kravtsov going to have himself another dud NHL stint like he had 2-3 times before with the Rangers and the Canucks? Thoughts in the comment section below about Kravtsov and his potential heading into next season. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.